Good evening, and welcome to the third meeting of the City of Laurel Redistricting and Ward Boundary Advisory Committee. This meeting is being held via Zoom and has been made public on the city calendar as well as other areas throughout the city. Ms. Quillen, if you would please call the roll.
Mr. Wilson, Mr. Smith.
Present, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clary,
Yes, here.
Ms.
I am
Whitley,
here.
Here.
Chairwoman Bettman.
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. And it's possible that Mr. Wilson will be joining us in process. First, before I move on to the minutes, I would like to thank all of the departments in the city that have assisted our committee in getting the word out for this meeting and the work that we are doing. Robert, you and your team, the Department of Economic and Community Development, with all of helping us find the background information, and Kim, the Office of the Council, helping us get information on the history of this. The Communications Department, Laurel TV, as always, the Facebook posts, the videos that was done for us, and DPW and anyone else that was instrumental in getting the large digital sign posted on Cherry Lane and outside of the areas that we're going to be talking about tonight within Ward 2. So I would a definite thank you from all of us on the Redistricting and Ward Boundary Advisory Committee. And I'd like to thank the citizens who may be watching on TV that made calls into the city to ask about this and to find out additional information. So a big thank you. Moving on to agenda item 2, approval of the minutes of the meeting held on March 15th. Those minutes were sent to all committee members. Are there any questions? If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I motion that we approve the minutes from March 15th. I believe that's the date. Yes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you,
This is
Mr.
the
Clary. Ms. Quillen, if you will please call the roll or call. Brooke, we have a motion and a second.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Clary,
Yes.
Ms. Whitley,
Yes.
Chairwoman Bettman.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Moving on to agenda item 3, the overview of the committee process. Brooke, if you would please advance. Excuse me. So the committee, whoops, thank you. The committee has met on 2 occasions and reviewed 4 options, not maps, 4 options and 6 sample maps. The first option we talked about was no change to existing ward boundaries. The second was to increase the boundary of existing Ward 1, and we had 3 samples of that. And there were 2 purposes in looking at those samples: to more closely balance the population in each ward, and also that would reduce the number in the current Ward 2. The third option that we looked at was changing the boundaries of both wards, and we looked at 2 samples. And we also looked at changing the number of wards. In both of those meetings, in the first meeting, we just looked at some maps. The second meeting, we had input from 1 member of the public, and we also had a discussion at our second meeting. At the end of the second meeting, we came to basically a consensus, no vote or anything, just a consensus to increase the boundary of the existing Ward 1. And for those that might be watching or joining us on this call, just briefly to go over that, when we open the public hearing, feel free to comment on any of the maps if you have comments on the map or any of the options, because what we came to the consensus in our meeting was to basically say that looking forward to the approved developments in the city, to the south of the city and to the east end of the city. We know that there will be continued growth in the city of Laurel. So the third and fourth options of changing both boundaries of the wards would involve a huge communication campaign. Changing the number of wards would increase the number of polling places and things like that. So we basically agreed that those two, at this time, we don't think were necessary. We have had discussion that no changes may be acceptable at this time, looking forward to 10 more years. I'd like to pause here and call on Rhonda Whitley. Rhonda, the vice chair of this committee, but also Rhonda has been a member of the Board of Elections for many years. And Rhonda, if you could comment to us, or I believe you're from Ward 2, how the polling places seem to handle, the current voter turnout, and whether, from your viewpoint, there anything that is mandatory or required, basically based on what you've seen at the last couple of elections. Rhonda?
Hi, everyone. Mitzi, what do you mean by, in my view, things that may be mandatory?
Well, so for example, have either of the wards during any elections been overcrowded or wait times too long that seem to be unacceptable? What we've been looking at is the fact that Ward 2 has a higher population. We don't have the breakdown of how many of those are voting age, but a higher population than Ward 1. So from a Board of Elections standpoint, does it appear that Ward 2, that at the Robert J. DePietro Community Center, we need to get fewer people there, or can you handle the voting that is going on there?
Understood. So since I've been involved, we've been able to handle the folks that come there to vote. We've done well from a staffing perspective, and we've managed it. It hasn't been overwhelming. It's been very manageable.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to let people hear that, because again, as we look forward to the possibility of no existing changes to the ward boundaries or just tweaking them, whether whether our decision is motivated by anything within the current election system, and it doesn't appear that it is.
I would agree with that.
Thank you very much. Before I move over to the maps, any other comments? Roy, on the process that we've been through so far, or?
No, I think you summarized it great. So I don't have any other additional comments. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you. Oris?
Yeah, no comment at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. So Brooke, if we could go on to the next slide, please. And just if anyone is joining us for the first time, this map, the blue, the top mostly north of Sandy Spring Road, Route 198, all the way to the east of the city across Route 1 is Ward 1. And then the orange is the Ward 2. The difference at this point, based on the 2020 census, is that Ward 2 is about 9.4% larger population. And again, that's population total of people in Ward 2. And if we can go to the next slide, please. This is the sample that was one of the sample maps that we as a group came to consensus on last time, pending hearing additional information from the public. And this is, if you look to the left of the map and you see the blue that has come south of Sandy Spring Road, Route 198, that has the black lines, the hash marks there. That is what we have looked at. If the council, and as a reminder, we have been established as a group of 5 citizens to look at this information and then to make a recommendation to the mayor and city council. We are only an advisory committee. So this is the one that we thought, for purposes of communication if the council believes that a tweak is needed to more closely align the numbers, that this would be basically the simplest one. And that is because it's pretty clear lines. It's west of Van Dusen Road and south of 198 to Cherry Lane. So it would tilt the numbers, the population numbers, more in the Ward 1, 15,647 to 14,000. So it's not exactly even, but from a communication standpoint, we felt that it would be easier to communicate this. So if we can go to the next slide, please. I would like to, at 6:11, I would like to open the public hearing. We do not currently have anyone that is signed up. However, we do have members of the public, and I believe some members from the council that have joined us this evening. So at 6:11, I would like to open the public hearing. And is there anyone that would like to comment? Okay. At 6:12. Oh, Donna Crary, can you unmute and speak?
I don't think I'm muted. Can you
Oh,
hear me?
no, you're Donna, we can hear you. This is Donna Crary. If you could state your name and address for the record, please, and welcome.
Donna Crary, 402 Montrose Avenue, Laurel. Could you name what the shaded areas are? Is that Wellington?
No, Brooke, can we go back to the last? Yes, I can name, and no, it is not Wellington. Okay, so looking at the hash mark, if you can see I-95 kind of towards the left, you know, if you go to the farthest left where the blue is above Sandy Spring Road. So if you envision the point there where the hash marks start to the right, that's the intersection of 198 and Van Dusen Road. So if you were leaving the municipal center and then coming up Van Dusen Road, as soon as you cross Van Dusen Road on your right, as you're driving towards Cherry Lane, towards the hospital, on the right, you have North Arbory.
Yes.
Second, you have South Arbory. Third, you have Laurel. It's basically a U shape off to the left before you get to that traffic light. Does anyone know that I meant to write it down today? And then when you turn right across the street from the fire department, Donna,
Yes.
that is Cherrywood.
Right.
So those, and so it stops there. One of the things the committee talked about in the first meeting and all agreed to was that we would not recommend breaking up any homeowners associations or any developments. So this would be a very discrete piece that is north of Cherry Lane there and west of Van Dusen.
One of the major problems I see is we can change the wards, but having experienced this firsthand, I realize we have to meet every 10 years, but you know, as Rhonda said, we haven't had any problems at either voting place handling the voting numbers because we have a lot of apathy.
Right. So hopefully we can, to your point, I mean, we would love to drive voting numbers up, and the city has done a great job with, you know, absentee ballot, you know, notification for absentee.
They certainly have. Yeah.
So early voting.
No,
So if I may ask you a question, is your recommendation that we would make no changes?
yes, it is at this time, mainly because of the growing population of certain areas in town. I think we're going to have to change it again, but that may be increasing another ward in 10 years, because I think we have certain areas that are going to increase in density. And also we have a certain right across the street from me, a certain transient population that inflates the numbers, if you will, in Ward 2.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Cole, thank you very much. Laurel Oaks is the name of the community that if you're looking in the hash mark, almost to Cherry Lane, it's right off of Van Dusen. Thank you for that. Is there anyone else? Donna, did you have anything else? I'm sorry.
No, I'm fine.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? I will close the public hearing at 6:15 p.m. Brooke, if you could advance. I guess we can go all the way to the, since we had no requests for the additional sample maps or anything. Now I would like to go to the committee members, and based on the information we've seen, the consensus or the information that we've had in front of us, any additional discussion points? Boris, how about from you?
No additional discussion points.
Okay.
Thank you.
Roy?
I do have a question. I just wanted to clarify. If you could pull back up the proposed map, possible, and you right across from the firehouse as you go up, onto your right, I think you said, I forgot the name of that first community. So where First Baptist Lane is First Baptist quote unquote church? Would that be a part of the change? I'm just trying to get a geographical, because there's some townhouses as well as some single family homes in that little area that's on the other side of Wellington, and I was just curious if that is a part of the change.
Robert, do you want to comment on that? I believe part of that is not city property. I'm trying to grab my old maps to see. I think Cherrywood was the last. Yeah. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, Chairwoman, it is part of it. First Baptist, the church would be completely part of that change. Yes.
And all those surrounding townhouses and single family homes. So I think it's probably was important, just as a note of record, if we've listed those other communities from Marbury, and I'm not sure if there's a name of that particular community, but I think we should note that also, because I think based on this and based on conversation, it's kind of hard for people to actually see that particular community is actually a part of the impacted change. So
I really appreciate you saying that. I absolutely, that is new information to me. I missed that looking at the maps. I thought that it stopped. I mean, I can see on the hash marks that it doesn't, but I, for some reason, thought we stopped as far as the city right there at Cherrywood.
And we did put a notification sign at Hardcastle there within that community. So there was notification over there that we did. Okay. We did include them within. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much for making that clear. And Don, I hope that you were able to hear that also, because I did not give you complete information. And yes,
both speakers were clear.
Thank you. Okay, Rhonda.
Yes, ma'am.
Any final thoughts?
Nope. I'm sorry. I have no further, nothing more to add to the discussion.
Okay.
Excuse me, Missy. I just had one other comment. I had to just point that out, but I just have one other comment of clarification. I know just for me personally, and just having conversations with a few, I just think that, changing, I guess my position now is changing a small, I think, portion of the boundary maps, compared to what may happen in 10 years, and then it'll be another change. I think that may cause added confusion. So I'm personally leaning on the side of no change, because we're only talking about that small section, and that that community or those communities could be impacted another time in 10 years and causes more confusion. So unless we're doing some holistic big change, I'm going to recommend that we make no changes. So just want to position that.
Well, Roy, then, actually, this is the appropriate time. I've asked each of the committee members if they had any additional comments or information. At this time, I was going to say if there's no further questions of the staff, Robert or of Kim, I would entertain a motion, and Roy, you may make your motion based on what you just said if you like.
Yes. So I would like to motion that the current map boundaries of Ward 1 and Ward 2 remain the same and no changes are made.
Do I have a second?
I'll second. It's me, Mitzi, Rick.
Okay.
Oh, Rick, were you able to, I'm sorry, Rick, before I ask us for a second, did you want to make any comments, or are you okay if we continue?
Go ahead and continue. Sorry, I'm so late.
That's okay. I'm sorry, Oris, did I hear you make a second?
Yep, my second.
Thank you. Ms. Quillen, if you would please call the roll.
Mr. Smith,
Yes, I agree on the
Thank
proposal.
you. Mr. Clary,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Whitley,
Yes.
Chairwoman Bettman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And before we end this call, if I could run a couple things through. So as far as information to the public, the staff following this call and this recommendation will be drafting the recommendation to the mayor and city council. That will come out for Rhonda for our review, and we'll turn that around. I believe process-wise, Kim, if you can confirm, it will come to, does it come to the office of the council, and then we will be notified when it's placed on the calendar? Did we lose Kim? Kim may still be frozen. We got a note that she was frozen there. But I believe the process is that what I'd like to do is run through just a couple of the points that we would like to see staff include, and I would ask committee members if there are any additional points. And those included those that were sent around in the note, that we explored the 4 options. We looked at several maps. We requested public input. We discussed the current conditions of the voting locations, the current voting locations, to see that there was nothing overwhelming any of those currently. Any other key points that you would like to see in our and then basically our recommendation is, at this point, we looked at the growth going forward, and at this point, this advisory committee is recommending no change. I did just get a note from Kim. It says the recommendation will go to the mayor and city council. The mayor and council will consider the recommendation and can make their own recommendation. There will be public hearings held if there are going to be any changes recommended by the mayor and city council. So for those of you from the public that may be watching, this will be at some point an agenda item for the mayor and city council if there is a recommended change. Any additional points, Rick?
No, thank you very much. I'm good.
Okay, Rhonda?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Oris?
Nope, no additional points. Thank you.
Thank you. And Roy?
No additional points. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'd like to thank all of you, and again, thanks to the departments in the city that have helped us look through this information and come to our recommendation. And with that, and no further business, we are adjourned. problem.
Thank you.